So greetings. So I am moving on a vibe this early day, and today I am making time to share and express. So I managed to get the first part of my chores done out in the garden, and I just wanted to just chat about selfishness. There's so many terms right now that are trending. Narcissism, gaslighting, love bombing, and now there's conversation and we're having dialogue and we're exploring selfishness and positive selfishness, and I think there's definitely something to be said for a positive selfishness in terms of self-preservation, um, prioritizing time for your self-care, for your movement practice, making sure that in your spending plan that your movement practice, your training, your coaches, your food, whatever it is that you need for you to have to thrive and be healthy, that makes sense, right? Because what are you working so hard for if you're not investing in yourself? For those that are new to this channel, this is Body-Culinary. On this channel, I share motivation to cultivate a movement practice, to consume peacefully. What that looks like for me, it's whole fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds with their living water intact. No labels necessary. You can add or subtract to whatever you need, and to start growing something as a lifestyle, as a way of nourishing yourself, as a way of self-care. So I think, especially as women, especially as mothers, as natural nurturers, whether you have children or not, it's critical. It's critical that we prioritize self-care. Just like you can't hold your poo-poo, right? Your elimination, you have got to go to the bathroom every day. If you don't, then all kinds of toxins are going to get stored up in the body. And so if you don't put time if you don't include in your spending plan your self-care, you're going to either pay up in the front or you're going to pay in the back. If you pay at the back end, most likely it's going to be very expensive and very debilitating. It's going to wind up costing you more. You could lose your working body parts. You do a lot of damage to yourself if you don't prevent certain diseases and prevent certain kinds of trauma through objective and common sense choices in your life, whatever you may have experienced. And I do think that there's a difference between selfishness, and something I've just been contemplating is, now this is my perspective. Anything I say doesn't resonate, please respectfully leave it right here. You're always welcome to comment respectfully in the comments. You may have another experience than I. But I just observe, and I get where it comes from now. I get the root of where it comes from. I've been observing certain things in the worldwide community, in my community, and my immediate surroundings for many years, right? And this is not limited to the Afro community, but I'm speaking from my own experience. Drug use is one of the most selfish acts that you can do. However, it's coming from a place, right? It's coming from a place, a need to turn in to soothe oneself. So this type, I don't even know if selfishness is even the fullest, is the most accurate description to get to the root, not description, but if it really gets to the heart, right, of it, because it's a setup. Just like we know drugs have been planted in certain communities, not everybody has access to drugs in a whole nother kind of way. But the stigma around drugs, when people are emotionally raw, vulnerable, have been violated, those are the perfect people. Those are the most vulnerable people to become addicts. Because if you are down and out and depressed, and somebody offers you a drink, usually people don't want to do that by themselves. That's number one. Usually people don't want to numb out by themselves, because the program, the picture that's been drawn is that it's socially entertaining to numb out and to trip out. But what is the line? What is the line? What's the determining factor where you can look into the future and see if this person is using casually, as if there's such a thing? I question these things because I consider these full on programs, just like moderation with toxic, highly addictive substances. I question someone offering someone who is emotionally vulnerable, who is at a low point, who is feeling sad, who is feeling uninspired, right? There's this thing that we offer somebody something to take the edge off. Something's missing. There's no accountability there. There's not a healthy processing there. There's not a look. There's no consideration long term to this person's health. And there's a full knowledge, if we're not in denial, that this substance, if they're getting a hit of pleasure, because usually somebody will give you a first couple of hits for free, right? Share for free, right? But let's just be critical thinkers here. Let's take some accountability. Let's let this season be the season that we are no longer, we're going to stay in victimhood, and we're going to be gullible. That we're going to be gullible about folks that have an agenda. If they want to share their disease, if they want to share their lack of accountability, if they want to share their sad state, although it may be valid, let's let this be the season that we put on our thinking caps of discernment of what people want to share with us. Your state. If your state is not coping, not dealing, being irresponsible. If it's men folk out there, you want to share that and slap high five with your homies on it. If it's women folk, if we want to slap high five on, oh, they're hot. But you're really not considering diseases. Is anyone looking at the CDC? The Centers for Disease Control, or we want to talk about vanilla supremacy, right? But I dare say there's a trauma supremacy that goes beyond color to greater, lesser degrees, varying degrees. There's a trauma supremacy out here because trauma reigns supreme. In trauma, in the setup for trauma leaves people in a PTSD, now those terms are more commonly known. Post-traumatic stress disorder, post-traumatic slavery disorder. You have Army folks and folks that have been in the military come home. That's stressful, extremely stressful. Children that are watching, arguing, and fighting. Children that are sitting in the background as all the video games that are the graphics are out of this world. Violence. So after a while, they get desensitized to it. It's traumatizing. The sounds, how people arguing and fussing and fighting all the time. We're constantly triggered. We're triggering back and forth on each other. We're triggered to the point sometimes you can go around folks and arguing now that it's so normal. Folks are like, why are you getting upset? It's like, it's triggering when you have to hear people yell and scream, like it's become normalized. That's traumatic. Trauma has an effect on your gut, your ability to digest, on your nervous system, on you being in fight or flight. Excuse me. It's got you jarred. Your nerves are on edge. And so we go from one extreme to another. I swear, it feels like we're constantly on the whole stroll. Between politicians, excuse me, I don't have my water. Stuff from the garden in my throat. Between the politicians and the religious folks and the folks with the Dolby surround sound movies in the movie theater, we have bounced around from one extreme to another of trauma. Then under the guise of entertainment. Then under the guise of comedy, where, our pain is a joke, especially Afro women's pain. It's a joke. To tease us, you should just be able to take it. You should be able to take it. Somebody calling you fat, calling you outside your name, talking about your body parts, groping your body parts. It's become normalized. Do we not see as so-called adults, chronologically speaking, adults, that we are all responsible for enabling this behavior, enabling it, because now we've gotten politically correct into a box. Now it's come to a point where you're too scared to say anything, to set a boundary, to be respectfully, to not agree, and to stand for some type of boundary for yourself as well as for young people. So we're contributing to producing human beings with no boundaries, no sense of no no sense of acknowledging other people's emotions, or somebody else has a different life perspective, a life story. We are enabling this behavior while we're just talking about the government. Are we so gullible and ignorant that we really expecting the government to, other than a little nod to throw a little bone to appease folks, are we really expecting a government system? And we put it on a couple of people. See, that's disempowering ourselves. And it cuts us off in like in a victim mentality right from the start. There's a place for selfishness. The narrative is everything. That's why I make every effort to write my own narrative, because I cannot, it has been demonstrated. I cannot, and this is my perspective, I cannot and do not trust the perspective at this point of not one religious leader on this planet, tried and tested, flawed human beings like everybody else. Not one political part, not one. No politician, no religious group, no government entities. At this point, it makes much more sense to, at least even if you don't know how, or you're not familiar rather, to go within and to trust, learn to dig into your own discernment, get quiet and listen to your own common sense. This is not the season to do what has been demonstrated, not me making it up, has not yielded consistent, sufficient results. We're in a societal denial about our lackluster results. And folks have no problem with you being a legal and illegal drug addict. Is anybody going to have this conversation with their children? Maybe some of us know, because nobody wants somebody to tell them, and I'm not here to tell grown folks what to do. That's an exercise in futility, not my BI business. I'm making an observation. Folks will want to take your head off if you say something about their vices. But folks have no problem, their uncles and aunties and adults that have no problem projecting their vices and their appetites onto children. Folks don't have no problem introducing your children to drugs. Maybe some of us as parents. This is where the lack of boundaries. There's no boundaries for children. That's because many of us have blurred boundaries ourselves. So there's a place for positive selfishness. If you decide not to partake in getting high, it doesn't make you, quote unquote, better. But then again, if you are making a choice which you deem better for yourself, you're ridiculed. You had a term that came out called orthorexic some years ago. And there's anorexia, bulimia, all these X's and isms. And the term is for people that basically are overly concerned about eating healthy. Now, I get it. But I'm like, wow, you got to be kidding. You have to be friggin' kidding me. I watched this doctor bash this woman that was a fruitarian and raised 2 children successfully as a fruitarian. That was her choice. But this is a committed mom, did her research, committed mom raising 2 healthy, beautiful children, even if they go off and decide to do something different. You are ridiculed. Right now, you need some common sense and to do due diligence. But you are ridiculed for wanting to feed your children healthy, but not if you're feeding your children rotten cadavers, deep fried things, fake refined flours. If you give your child a sip of alcohol or coffee, this is like, I'm not telling folks what to do, but just if we just consider, I swear to you, it's like we are just farm animals. There's almost no critical thinking. It appears that the amount of consumption, from the messages to the things, substances masquerading as food, to the insensitivity to violence, has turned us into a whole nother species, and is showing very, very clearly in our children. We're so desperate for attention and validation that we're allowing ourselves to be a portal to human beings coming here unintentionally, who, if we really think about it, many of us for our own selfish purpose, we want something to love. Just one woman's perspective. You don't have to agree. But if we're wanting to protect, I get it more now. The longer you're on this planet, hopefully you get some life wisdom. We want ours. It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. We don't make children by ourselves. So can any of us just stop, or any of us willing to stop with the planet? Are any of us willing to just stop, press pause, and see how we are each enabling and contributing to these behaviors while we're pointing the finger at the screen? Drugs are selfish. You're not going to be present or available for your children. You're not going to notice if somebody's pushing up. Let's stop lying to ourselves. When you're high and drunk, you're less likely to be cognizant of what's going on with your children. For vanity, you're not going to be noticing how much food you're taking in so you can fit into your dress. But no, everybody's drunk and sleep at the wheel. It's a friggin' field fest. It's wide open to violate the children. Wide open. The children is you. Remember? You were them. So it happened to us. Now I guess the attitude of most adults, they'll learn. They'll get over it. If you take a look around, these children are not getting over it. These human spirits are not getting over it. I'm going to say it. Y'all don't have to agree. I'm just going by what I see. Pretty much consistent. If I had to run the numbers, y'all, somebody respectfully tell me, what's the point of where you go from recreational to drug addict to a bottle? If you're higher and you have the suit and tie on, like many folks I know, there's no stigma around you drinking a bottle of wine. But if it's Thunderbird from the corner, you're a wino. As people who have been traumatized, most human beings, but I'm going to say as an Afro person, have we not figured out there's some things? As a young person, I could kind of figure out the position that we're in. The last thing we need is drugs and alcohol. The last thing. Yet all the hip hop, everything for a fast dollar. Everything is for a fast dollar. Even the ones at the top now, the older ones, the ones that have more money. Every time there's something on YouTube, it's a round table of cigars, drugs, and alcohol. Come on. I don't want it. Fine line. Have we not? There has been so much suffering. I have watched generations. Did we not learn from the crack era? Did we not learn from indigenous people, if any of them are still alive by a shoestring? Have we not seen any patterns? People don't mind you being a drug addict. They're going to give you create a problem and give you something to take the edge off. But guess what? Now, let's tell the truth. It's chocolate folks are also up on the game selling it to each other. What's the excuse? How long do we keep blaming somebody else? All right, that's the narcotics. If y'all upset, I'm just talking out loud to myself. Don't pay me no mind. As women, we're passing our habits of addiction on to children. We've got to do something else. Something. You don't have access to a therapy? Get a garden. Be creative. Do something. Do something. We are also contributing to addicts and menaces to society. We're bringing them forth unintentionally into unstable environments and winging it. But we have the audacity to point the finger at obesity, to point the finger at little boys who don't know boundaries. We're contributing to it. We're enabling it. At the very least, healthy boundaries and not supporting the industries who, come on, can you not see it? There are some exceptions, but the hip hop today is so contaminated. Popular music, but hip hop is been used it is so co-opted. I find it vile and disgusting, and we keep making every rationalization and excuse to keep it going. So everybody's going to get their fast money. If we're so talented and word wizards, you mean to tell me we can't be rapping about financial literacy? We can't be rapping around hygiene? We can't be rapping around abstinence? That's it? Are we farm animals now with no brains? I am not the martyr. I don't really give two peach pits at this point in my life if people like me or disagree, because we can disagree respectfully. But it appears we are so enticed with entertainment, whether that's religious theatrics, and for one good point, you will ignore all the other vile character just to say we belong to a group, or that's my pastor, or that I voted for him. What it takes the onus off of us, just like Jesus Christ will pick up the tab, so we don't have to be accountable. I'm gonna get a fresh, brand new body in the next life, hello, because I just totally trashed and abused this one. That's a lie. That's a lie. And if you don't mind, and if I don't mind co-signing on a lie, why don't we just stop complaining? Why don't we, if we don't know everything, at least we could do is refrain from certain behaviors, supporting within ourselves and within these different industries that we are consuming instructions. We are consuming visual instructions. These instructions make your heart flutter and make your heart smile. They're giving you instructions into your psyche. So as long as we're on the whole stroll, folks don't mind. That's the only reason why chattel slavery ended, because the new form is much more effective, where we will volunteer to be slaves to everything, consumer slaves. All we own is on our back, depreciating by the millisecond. Am I saying I don't like nice things? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying we'll take things over experiences. We'll take things over people. There's not even a vetting process. We're only looking at people, what they look like in their words, and that's barely anything before you let them into your orifices, before you decide to have a child. This is male and female, and we're complaining. Are we dumb? Are we gullible? Are we blind? Has trauma set the stage? And then how long do we hold on to the trauma? Because trauma is no joke. I don't dismiss trauma. I don't take it for granted. See, I've been watching documentaries of junkies for years just to want to understand. I watched a mom, her whole face gone, whole body gone. Children have come to rescue her from the crack alley numerous times. And she was like, yeah, I know, I'm gonna stop. Yeah, my baby, yeah, she loved me. Yeah, I'm gonna stop this. It's in a crack, a little clearing like a bush with an old couch. Looking 25, 30 years older. See, we're not getting to the root, a lot of the sexual violation. But yet, and us women also being all inclusive, I could care less with somebody's orientation. It's not about somebody's orientation. It's about deviancy and healthy boundaries. And what we are allowing. We are so petrified to feel emotion. We are so petrified to feel withdrawal. I'm not exempt. I just figured out years ago, and I'm still on my journey. But there's a lot today that you can't pay me to do. Really, what stops me in my tracks is being so sensitive to the sufferation, so sensitive, so highly keen and observant that I've watched this particular pattern play out to a T over and over and over. So it's not everything we have to go through and learn and put the next generation of children, of human beings, at risk before we just acknowledge certain patterns. Poor choices have long-reaching effects. People not vetted have long-reaching effects. I can't think of not one hip hop person that would be my leader. I can't think of not one pastor. The stuff I've heard come out of pastors' mouths, and I quote, a pastor about his congregation: dumb niggas don't care, those iganays, you too, don't care nothing about no health. There's people in every color and package. They're telling you they don't care about you. They're showing you. Your best bet is to care about you, to set healthy boundaries with yourself so that the trauma is not ruling and running our lives. We almost, at this point, it's like we're addicted to the trauma and re-traumatizing ourselves. Because if that's the case, this is a wrap. It's a wrap. It's not easy. No one wants to sit through that dark night. No one wants to sit through the emotions. You're not encouraged to sit through the emotions. You're not. And then in sitting through the emotions, it's not to give way to a doomsday, because in the environment that we're in, it's a slippery slope. The rates of folks taking themselves out have increased. But even without folks offing themselves, many of our people have been slowly offing themselves while walking around for years. Many of us have observed our parents taking themselves out, and we're deeply affected. What are we to do with that? I don't have all the answers, but I could tell you this. I keep my ears and my eyes peeled for things that can make me feel better, where I can reparent myself and find things that are therapeutic for myself. Because I realize that I am 1,000% responsible, no matter what could have happened to me or those around me. And sometimes that can even be a saddening thing to reckon with, right? Because it busts up all the illusions and the religious fantasy and the Disney movies we've been given. You're responsible and you're accountable for yourself. Nobody's coming to save you. And if they are, where they at? You wait for somebody to come down from the sky to rip the Lorna Doones or whatever, the cookies and the soda, which are drugs. They're not. The substance is masquerading as food. You waiting for them to rip it out of your hand? You waiting for your spouse to rip it out of your hand? All of us have so much compounded stress. As parents, perhaps one of the best things that we could do is to set an example. You can't even control your children, because this programming out here is no joke. It's no joke. Like when you're looking at people on TV, it's like we've become desensitized. We're looking at plastic people. This is normal. I'm not talking about adornment. Like, can we discern there's a different vibe? And with plastic, like, shoot, with plastic for money. But we're not looking at the long-term effects. By the time we figure it out, a lot of and I'm not going to I'm learning, I consistently learn, I'm not going to knock another person for where they are in life, because traveling has shown me a lot of compassion for folks. And some folks may really be in a situation, they're doing what they can to eat. So I'm not here to judge somebody. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to judge somebody. Somebody 300 pounds might save your life. Even though they're offing themselves. But many of us are offing ourselves in some ways that are less discerning to the eye, in some ways that are more socially acceptable. But it's like it's a circus out here. We're taking our direction from people that look, there's rap artists that look, supposed to be just weed, that look like they're cracked out. And these are our leaders? It's absolutely astounding. It looks crazy. The shows, folks that are just offering themselves, these are leaders, have no kind of character. I'm not saying perfection, but just it's out of control. These are leaders. And so still we're in such denial. We're not wanting to, I would trust my own essence, my own common sense. It's time to wake up and to go in and begin, maybe, because maybe some of us never have, to begin on a much bigger scale. So it's not just a little peak. Begin to uncover, unclog, and dust off your essence, your own common sense out here. And to run the litmus test for everybody you interact with, no matter what their package, no matter how sweet their words are. Because every time you let people into your psyche and you give people a pass without running a vetting process, you're left disappointed and jaded. And we're affected by that also. So selfishness. There's a healthy selfishness in terms of self-care. But if we're sitting there doing greetings, if we're just drugging out whatever, it is so selfish. It is so, you know what? I was just thinking in the garden, the moment when you find out that you are about to parent, that you're pregnant or you're with child, That's a beautiful, or it should be a beautiful moment. But I invite you to think back. In the moment that you found out, was it a moment of fear because you weren't properly prepared or because it was unplanned? You don't have to say anything because you're in your quiet moments. Or did the reality hit you of who you had decided to become a parent with, unprepared, maybe mentally unstable, but they got a nice body? Was that a moment of fear because of the environment that you're bringing the child into? This little human being, knowing that you hadn't set up certain kinds of boundaries, or you are not or weren't prepared for the things that could go wrong, that could dramatically alter this human being's life? There's nothing like a human being properly sent for, called for, and prepared for. If you see these people, it's not that your lives are perfect. It's another kind of energy around parenting. And to be quite honest, that's what we all really deserved. We deserved present and pleasant parents. We actually deserve that. So did they. That's what we deserve, but we winging it. Winging it is, might be some exceptions, but I dare say has failed drastically and has put many human beings in positions of pure, excruciating trauma. They got to wing it on their food. They got to wing it on their walk to school. They got to constantly be unsafe. They got to get whatever's left over. If there's any time left over, whoever's watching them, just no intention, but we want to have a baby. These are little human beings. We see the fruit now that they're matured. So it's not just men. It's not just men. It's not just men. It's not just men. So we're ricocheting, we're vomiting up the trauma and the denial and the triggered. We're vomiting up on each other. And should you decide to get a little self-help, you get rid of it and you slurp the vomit back up. And we're constantly going off on each other. Like it's a man hate woman thing out here. Or a human hate human thing out here. I don't know everything, but something is off in this formula. Something is off. And there's so much coming at us at one time. I don't know everything. So what I do know, what I can discern, is that to keep my eye peeled, right? And to listen to your emotions, because there's a lot of confusion there, right? Even sometimes you can't tell which part of your psyche is talking to you. If it's the part of your trauma and your ego that's illogical but will try to defend you, or if your essence, which won't harm you and won't harm others. We haven't even cultivated a listening. So I keep my eye peeled for things, and I watch how things, if food, people, what I'm watching, take a step back to notice how things are feeding your behavior, how they're making you feel. If you're enticed, or you got to get a hit of something to numb out, to take the edge off, to take the stress out from things that are coming at you in your eyes or coming at you into your psyche, or making you feel like you're less than because of what's sprouting out of your body naturally. Who wrote these programs? You can't even mature. You can't even mature in peace through your life cycle. So you've got to be very intentional around your peace and your health. You've got to be. Because you'll even be enticed to settle for any old thing in your, okay, time is getting late, you don't have a child, just let anything up into your womb. Just pay a couple of dollars and get any kind of thing from a bank to put into your womb. It's like, it's just, we're lacking discernment. We're not looking at, especially as women, as natural born seers. Our seeing has been co-opted. Our seeing has been co-opted, and we're handing it over willingly. So, that's just my garden. Just thinking that drugs are selfish. Alcohol is selfish. And a lot of the selfishness, before making ourselves bad or wrong, see, it's not bad or wrong, but it is accountable and responsibility. There's a difference between making yourself bad or wrong. Usually it's going to end up and you feeling bad and keeping the cycle of shame going, right? If you feel bad about yourself, there's usually going to be some shame. I'm giving you a connection. Try it on the side. Doesn't resonate. Leave it right here. Feeling bad, you're going to feel shame. This applies to eating yourself into a hole too. You feel bad, you do it in dark, you're shame, or you can be like, oh, I'm just gonna eat everything and I'm rocking out with this whole pack of donuts because I love it. I love getting high. See, that's another face of it too. Totally in denial about the effects it's having on your kidney, your liver, your spleen, your beauty, your vitality, your longevity, your waistline. A healthy waistline. And children are taking it all in. Even if you don't have children, your subconscious is taking this all in. You cannot outrun your subconscious, knows the truth. But we are enticed to lie to ourselves. Look at all the packages of shiny faces with stuff that's plastic and colorings. I call it substances masquerading as food, and I've eaten every junk food, high-end, low-end. I don't know. I don't even if I don't use the term vegan, I just if you just peep the energetics of it, there's something that's off here. Because the more that I eat these substances, these recreational foods, it makes me feel bad. I got to get another hit. So that's what's letting me know that it's a drug. And the funny thing is we do need food. We need nutrients. We're spending all this money to be beautiful, to look like we have healthy skin, and then we eat stuff that has no living water, no life force, no fiber. The flowers have been refined to the point where there's no vitamin E, no antioxidants in it anymore, not how it came from the earth. So there's a picture of a whole living food on the box, but that's not what it is by the time we ingest it. Do you think this stuff could perhaps be affecting our mood? Maybe. Do you think it might affect our decision making? Maybe. If the brain is the control center, when you take a hit of poison, what's going to get the biggest hit of the poison? Your brain. Your brain is going to get the hit of the poison. See, it's not. We're all trained and programmed that it's just in your mouth with the barbecue and the onion and I love all of those flavors. But the chemicals and the artificial flavors, not fresh onions. People take the fresh onions and the lettuce and toss it to the side. But we'll drink lime green colored drinks. Do you think this could be affecting your nervous system, your mechanoreceptors, your nociceptors, all the receptors of your brain that allow you to process information? Do you think maybe what we're consuming in terms of in the party in the mouth, the total entertainment, blow up fest, video game, drama series in the eyes, the repetitious hypnotic lyrics in the ears, do you think maybe, even though I know we're intelligent, this stuff we're consuming, we're affected by all we're consuming? I invite you, go into the garden, create one on your windowsill, a corner of your house, backyard, share a garden, get thee to a garden, get thee to the church. That's the church is not trying to scam you, because you may start to notice, even your mind may be racing. It's going to start to calm down, and eventually you're going to be able to hear a different part of your intelligence system in the garden with the plants. I'm inviting you all to create a great day on purpose. But you know this, I ain't telling no grown folks what to do. That's an exercise in futility. I'm not superhuman. I'm not a mule. I'm not superwoman with my African cape on my back. No. But don't get it twisted. If you come, I got a nice garden machete for you. So don't get it twisted. You know what I mean? My sister had me going to the range. But that being said, I'm not a mule. I don't have all the answers. I can't carry everybody's pain. That's an exercise in futility. That's why that's why you got certain people that know stuff, and I'm not claiming to be anybody's guru. They go underground because you can't carry the energetics. You can't carry the energy, the weight, right? I've seen this in personal training. I've seen it work in a holistic health center. A lot of times we've been making these people God, and they don't want to be your God. But we have an addiction, which we've been groomed for, to making everybody God and Jesus. The celebrities, the pastors, and they'll take your money. They'll take your life force energy. All of these years you're doing all this extracurricular stuff at the church. Have you seen dramatically the conditions in the inner city change? A lot of money people send it to all of these people and all of these cults and all these prayer ministries. You could be putting into your own garden. You could be putting into yourself and giving yourself some other kinds of experiences. Sorry, not sorry. The amount of watch time that we give all of these celebrities. It's not all, but vast majority. I don't know what you're seeing. But what I'm seeing is it's frightening. If there was two, what I call impromptu beauty conferences, and I'm watching male and female, I don't like needles, suffering as the doctor's trying to squeeze the floor caulk and the chemicals out of their backsides. Afro women? Really? But I get it, though. I get it. But we're going to sit and say we're not affected. We're not under any kind of spell. Now, starting to trend. I'm not the first to call it, but what is it called? Breast implant sickness. Have you taken a look? I'll give you a tiny snippet here. And it's a lot of young women. See, this is the thing. You're being enticed. You're being enticed to open up every single orifice for $1. I get it. Fiat is a reality. But what happened to all the king? We can't come up with nothing our creativity has been stunted. Our confidence has been compromised, which is one of the reasons why. And I can appreciate makeup. I can appreciate a little pixie cut. I can appreciate it. However, there's a disconnect somewhere. We're not really acknowledging that our esteem, right, which is affecting your subconscious, which is affecting all of your decisions, has been co-opted by all of the messaging. There's something that's telling us if you got a primal out of the womb, you're not good enough. When you hit the door from your mother's apartment or your house, you're being told the messaging in spite of the smiling faces. I remember the kitty kit. We got to understand psychology here and advertising. You're not good, you're lacking. But when you get this product, once you get this product, now you're worth something. Now you'll be accepted in the eyes of society. Now you can get a job. Now you can come into the church. Now you're worth something. When a lot of times they just put you more on predators' line of vision. Maybe perhaps in addition to the food and the drug withdrawal, we don't want to go through the withdrawal. Y'all could respectfully disagree, but I'm just going to make a little time and I'm going to go back into the garden, go back to my work. Why not let's just admit, or let me not say admit, that's too much for the ego. Acknowledge that we're not seen as pretty. And when I say pretty, let me put the context, being everybody's always flipping the context. When I say pretty, I mean worthy of protection, beautiful, worth protection, worth veneration. See, there's a difference, right? For any of my 20-something-year-olds, my couple of teens might come on this channel. Let me tell you, if nobody's going to tell you, today you hot and you got injections, people can sleep with you and can't stand you. And you can make a little coin, but your body's going to get older. And it's like a machine. You crank them in, crank them out. You're just like the drug game is very, very limited. You got a very, very, very small window. And what you're not banking on is the psychological, emotional, how that will take you off your trajectory of your life of what you wanted to do and what you had planned for yourself. Nobody's banking on the mental illness. There's already enough mental illness and stuff that's projected onto us. But nobody's talking about the fallout, because the last time, usually when I observe, Most of the folks that do well in that industry, and I don't follow it closely, but there's a couple of people, they're looking, they can't wait to get out of that very industry. So people will make you think you can get in, like the drug game and the whole hotty-toddy game, that you can get in and get out. And you just come out with no scars, no mental, emotional scars. How do you monetize mental, emotional scars? Tell me that. And folks that are mentally, emotionally scarred, you really think, should you decide to be a parent, that you're going to be emotionally present? Do you really think? Most of us are suffering because we've had parents, even if it wasn't their fault, either they were out at work somewhere because everybody's struggling to survive. We're not very strategic. Usually you're very triggered and you're not thinking critically. So we haven't been very strategic at all. And everything that we do is dependent on somebody else's campaign or what they set up. This George Soros or whatever his name is. We don't even check who's funding all the movements. That's why every single movement was aborted and co-opted. So, nah, I'm not interested in being anybody's martyr. And don't let the kinky hair fool you. Don't let the fruit and vegetable living, don't let it fool you. Because I don't have the romanticism. I still love life. I still love joy. But you know what? The fantasy spell has been broken. I've seen too much. I've seen too much from very wealthy individuals, politicians, so-called leaders, and I don't seen too much. Some raw vegan leaders. I don't seen too much of what they really think of their followers. But the crazy thing is now the mental illness is deep. Because I have never seen so many women. Before I would have been shocked and heartbroken. And still it's kind of shocking. Women co-signing on this behavior of these narcissists online, signing up for abuse, online waiting in queue for the opportunity to either stroke the narcissist's ego and tell them everything's going to be all right, or getting online to have an argument with the narcissist, thinking that they got the illest nana, or they're going to be sharp enough to have a one-on-one with the narcissist. It's like right now a breeding ground of narcissists. And so I invite us, maybe as a young one, before you have children, you may have children, I invite us to consider, I don't know everything, but I just invite us to consider that we are also contributing to the breeding ground of narcissists. In poor choices, some of it's not our fault, but our life is our responsibility. In falling way to the pressure to have children, with any old folks, to not having a vetting process, And I have to say, they're not going to like this, but hey, I have to say it's not just men. It's not just men. It's heartbreaking. It's not just men. We could see men folk. That's easy to see. But a lot of the behavior coming from us as women, we're missing some of it, of how we're contributing to this. Regardless of the label you're calling yourself, in some of our selfishness and wanting to control other people, or we're thinking we got the illest nana, we're going to come and change somebody, when they're showing you out the gate what their behavior is, and not acknowledging that we need help and we need assistance. We just keep winging it. And many of us not wanting to go through withdrawal. Also, and thinking we're going to go through this life without any kind of, thinking that we can go through this life without creativity, without being creatively expressive, putting it off to the back burner. Thinking that we're going to be healthy people, spouses, relationship partners, parents, without creative expression. And we're just going to stuff that. That can make for very miserable people. We're thinking that all we are, like we're being encouraged to just be like walking plastic people. And we want somebody to be honest and authentic, but we're not honest and authentic with ourselves. Again, I'm not demonizing makeup or putting on. I think there's somewhere there's a difference. There's a difference. It's like we're not being honest. We want other folks to be honest. We want the so-called supremacy to be honest, and we want men to be honest, but we're not totally honest in that withdrawal is a reality that we don't want to go through. Being accountable and responsible, even if we're ignorant, if we made decisions in ignorance, that in our own quiet moments is for us to apply the corrective action. You're most likely going to be alone in doing that. You're not going to get a whole bunch of people wanting to do corrective action with you. You're not going to get people wanting to be abstinent with you and you're going to blast it online. Now I'm abstinent and I don't do alcohol. Now I don't do drugs or whatever. Nobody cares, really. Folks don't really care. You are on your own. And that's like, for some reason, that freaks us out. That's a scary, you're on your own. I like to say wisdom. So the sun has finally come up. Wisdom is hard earned. Wisdom is hard earned. Clarity is hard earned. If you can come to the point of clarity without sacrificing, without you becoming totally bitter and jaded, becoming a bitter and jaded person. Oh my gosh, we don't want to be bitter and jaded. That's a turn off to young people. Nobody wants to be around us if you're bitter and you're jaded. So where's the balance? This is why I encourage folks to start a garden, to feed yourself beautiful, peaceful fuel that's very gentle on your digestive system, that's beautiful to look at. Like when you hear the birds and all of that in the background, like if we didn't give it a label, it has a vibe to it. It has a vibe to it. If you listen in that way, it can kind of help. It can help guide your decisions without all the labels, because we don't need one more thing to divide us. We don't need one more thing to divide us. But we're not really enticed to mental health. It's superficial. It's not real. If you want mental health, if you want peace, if you want joy, you want fitness, you're going to have to do something to attain it. Most likely you will have to let some things go, some habits go. And those habits will not go quietly. Many of those habits have become a part of our identity. You're not going to be supported because, folks want company. It's not just misery. We want company and not feeling alone in the coping mechanisms that we have found, the highly addictive coping mechanisms. I look at like you got 4 heads. Anybody trying to entice me to compromise my brain functioning, my common sense, if you're going to entice me to put myself in harm's way, I got to look at you like you got 4 heads. I don't have to hate you, but I recognize patterns. And if there's one thing, women folk, our bodies are naturally attuned to cycles and patterns. See, if you don't know everything, I know that. Everybody's taken, it's like we're so religified. Now astrology has taken the point of religion. See, there are elements of truth in all of this. But we're using all of these scripture text astrology as a bypass for common sense, accountability, and responsibility. My zodiac sign and some spirulina and wheatgrass is not going to excuse me from the effects of poor decisions. Okay? I'm a Taurus. You engage with a narcissist, you're in for trouble. You engaging with folks say unsafe in terms of your intimate organs, you're going to pay, whether you a Pisces, Taurus, or Libra. Poor decisions, you're putting little human beings at risk. Whether I'm a Gemini or Scorpio. Right? There's some serious Jedi mind tricks that are going on. It's patterns. I invite you to get quiet so you can hear your essence. Your essence will not compromise you. See, that's my little litmus test. Maybe you got to get your own. Litmus test I have found, and I don't know everything, is my essence won't put me in harm. It won't put my body parts, my brain. It won't put other people in harm's way. It won't. It won't put me in harm's way. The ego, which does have a purpose, is irrational and will lash out to protect myself, and it will twist things. See, the ego can make you think you can run on a treadmill until you are 90 pounds, unhealthy. or to have you working out until you rip your shoulder, right? Because you see attack where there's no attack. So you got to be very careful. It's up to us to start to unpack and to understand our own psyche. Because I guarantee you, all these companies and pimps and predators and conmen and politicians and pastors, it's their profession. They go to business school, whether street business school or the official paid for business school, to understand your psyche. Anyway. It is hard. Like it's hard. It's challenging. Let me interject that word. It's challenging. I used to tell my son, are we gonna say it's hard or it's challenging? Oh, he probably didn't like it. And one day my son gave it right back to me. I was saying something was hard. He said, Mommy, is it hard or is it challenging? I was like, wow, thank you, son. Anywhere you can look to reframe the narrative is important to your psyche. These words, the language is loaded with pictures and vibes, connotations. It is hypnotic. We are highly programmable. Can we not see? That's what the occult is. We're making it all Illuminati. We're making it all like it's spookadook. But spirituality is actually very practical. See, spirituality has accountability and responsibility built in. Right? If you're praying all day and you're not in action, guess what? You're not in alignment. You're trying to break a law. People encourage you to some asinine stuff like sitting and praying. As soon as you get through praying, you will get a triple pack of Oreos. Come on. Come on. People don't mind you being a gullible fool, and people are going to share their addictions with you. The freedom is on the other side. I found waiting for motivation is a scam. It's the reward of getting into action. That's where your motivation is. I'm going to tell you, as a trainer that's been in the business for going on for decades, let me put it like that. The motivation comes after you get into action. Just get into some kind of action, cleaning, dance, start moving. If you want to break some spells in some practical ways, start putting your hands in some dirt. Feel yourself. Sometimes walk around your house. See if you can start to appreciate your own skin and hair and nails. Plenty of time to doll up. Plenty of time. But then when you find out information, again, I'm not telling nobody what to do. That's not my job. You do that, because we make people, Jesus put them on a pedestal and then we rip them down, which does not serve us. But when you find out information about something that's toxic and cancer causing, do you have the ability to put it down? See, this is not about other people. Do you have the ability to walk away from it? And if you can't, that's a mentality. Don't make it so wrong. I invite you to have a healthy curiosity about that. Why is it so hard? Question the pictures of where do we learn this from? You can't walk away from people and things. Sometimes now we found that we are physiologically now in our physical body addicted, and our mental we're addicted, emotionally we're addicted. This is no joke out here. This is why sometimes our reason, like sometimes we're just moving like farm animals. Anyway, I'm signing off. Feel free to support the channel if you like. Find any kind of value here, just one woman's perspective. You're always welcome to comment respectfully with some healthy boundaries, right? We keep healthy boundaries for each other. If you'd like to see some of my designs, my hand-cut Afro beauty marks, and my gold face mask, and my Grandma Lou coconut grinder for living foods, that is on the Etsy shop. I have a Patreon. Now there will be a food prep party that will be all unprocessed foods once a month for folks that are patrons of the channel. And I think there are either 5 or 10, I don't remember, spots for people that are patrons to consult with me once a month. That's anything around hair, even though I'm not a technologist, I can share my experience, but I can as a chef and as a coach and a personal trainer if you're stuck in any of those areas. Yeah, if you want some practical insight to get into action, if you would like to avail yourself of the resources, Whole Living Foods in the Hood, that guide, if you want what I've been doing condensed. Let's see, that you can find on Body-Culinary, eating healthy, plant-based for men. Because I know men are concerned about becoming emaciated. You get your fitness on. That's not going to happen to eat enough food. And there's food preservation and preparedness, which is a lifestyle, but learning how to work with the whole fresh ingredients, and also what to have stored up around your house, and then natural beauty, no products. So those are some of the resources you can find on bodyculinary.com. You're welcome to donate to the channel. So y'all create a great day on purpose. See you soon.